righty. Greetings and salutations, everyone. My name is Andrew Kirchhoff, and welcome to our Monday night live stream for now week 11 of the 2024 fantasy football season. For the next hour plus, we're talking anything and everything fantasy football related. Of course, we just thought we will, as the live chat is pretty much kind of dictated thus far. And you know what I actually forgot to do? Hold up. One moment. I forgot to throw up today's thumbnail. What am I doing? Am I asleep at the wheel? Kind of, sort of. That's not what I wanted to do. Okay, let's do this again. Holy moly, how did I mess this up? Okay, now if I turn... Okay, that's not what I wanted to do either. What in the... I see what happened. Okay, well, we'll figure it out. Either way, welcome. As the live chat was saying earlier, yeah, that was one of the worst games we've seen in a while. I mean, I can't even understand how you can have Jalen Waddle on your team and you don't give him any opportunity. It's pretty much Jalen Waddle and Devontae Smith are in the same position almost every week. They're associated with offenses that for some reason have too many luxury pieces to even include them within the overall game plan, which is, it's an unfortunate reality. But as you all would imagine, earlier today, in regards to the waiver wire episode, yes, this is Audric Estime. He is probably the best running back conversation piece that we've had in quite some time here. But in regards to the overall potential, oh, you know what? That's what I messed up. Okay, hold up. Everybody give me a second here. So if I do that, aha, there we go. And then what I want to do, theoretically, is bring this up. Let's bring, aha, there it is. Okay, you see, I got it lost in the overall pathway here. You see this? This was the suggestion I had earlier today via the waiver wire episode, right? This was my suggested play going into tonight. Devon Achane does his job. Raheem Mostert does his job. Puka Nacua does his job. But you know who didn't do their job? Matthew Stafford decided to, you know what? On this beautiful down in which Kyron Williams is wide open, I'm going to sail the ball 15 yards over everyone's heads out of bounds in order to secure a field goal. I mean, that's on me. I apologize. I will no longer be chasing touchdowns. This will be the final time. I'm telling you right now, unless it's Derrick Henry or Christian McCaffrey, I am no longer chasing touchdowns in any sort of situation. It'll just be receptions because I'm just hitting on it. Reception-wise, receiving yard-wise, I was clear today. On all the other bets I made, clear. But touchdowns, I mean, they came back with a vengeance this week. Either way. Very interesting week of football, to say the very least. In terms of the overall games, I mean, this is one of the worst weeks we've had in terms of overall fantasy scoring. I don't remember a time in which in a 2 QB league, in my main home league, I don't remember, maybe earlier this season, weeks 1 through 2, maybe weeks 1 through 3, teams consistently scoring less than 100 points in a 2 QB super flex format. That should never happen with 3 wide receivers and a flex. This week was that kind of week. Very low scoring. Again, when your second highest scoring wide receiver of the week is Marquez Valdez-Scantling, it gives you a little bit of an understanding as to really where we're at in that overall kind of situation. Either way, we're answering any and all fantasy football questions. If you guys type it in the chat, make sure you include your scoring format. That is greatly appreciated. If you guys could also do me a favor and click the like button down below, that is also very much so appreciated. Thank you very much. Blue Jay says, I put up 166 this week. Yeah, well, look, consider yourself lucky because you're probably one of a very few group. And I did see your message earlier, Blue Jay. You said, Andrew, can I trust Jake Moody going forward? Yes. Look, he missed a lot of field goals. I understand it. But going forward, he is still implicated with one of the highest scoring offenses in the league. And if they continue to stall out in those scenarios, he will most likely score. He will most likely score the vast majority of his overall opportunities. All right, let's see here. Is it time to sit Tyreek Hill? I mean, at this point, I don't think you can ever sit Tyreek Hill. I think it's an unspoken rule where if you have a player of that caliber, you cannot sit him. I understand he only had 3 receptions, but he did score a touchdown, so he did somewhat make it right in the overall situation. I mean, look, the Dolphins' offense does not look great. The Rams offense somehow regressed, and we're just going to hope that it changes going into next week, and and hope for the best. I mean, really, at this point, you have to still start Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua, Tyreek Hill. As for Waddle, that's a conversation for next week. Probably an avoidable position going forward. You would think that, you'd have such a talented wide receiver. He has 2 catches for 55 yards in just the first quarter alone. Maybe you keep, going back to him. Nope, let's completely ignore him. Classic. Easy E sends in a question. Thank you, Easy. Says Andrew, I'm 5-5. HA, Neighbors, and CD and Daniels cooked me. Yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah, Jaden Daniels putting up 0 rushing touchdowns was quite a surprise. When you have Austin Eckler running in 2 and Jeremy McNichols running in 1, I would have thought at least one of those touchdowns were going to be, Jaden Daniels keeping it and running it in. Unfortunately, was not the case. James says, hey, Andrew, happy birthday. Thank you. Appreciate it. Says PPR, I traded Odunze and Hunter Henry for Kelsey. That's not really even a fair trade. I think you fleeced them. So congratulations on getting Kelsey for pretty much free. Soul 31 5 Assassin says, or 351 Assassin, 315. Jeez Louise. Says James Wilson. Oh, he's talking to somebody else. Never mind. Okay, got it. Onich says I won by 2.44, 5 dubs in a row. I'm 7-3. Thanks, Andrew. Yeah, listen, man. Glad to help. Some of you are probably on win streaks. Some of you are on losing streaks, and the losses are going to continue to stack up. We just got to hope that our players show up. Really, a game like this to end 23 to 15. That is beyond depressing, to say the least. We would have assumed that this was going to be a way higher scoring game, especially considering the Rams were not only 3-point favorites, but the Vegas total was, if I'm not mistaken, was it not like 45.5? It was up there. They could have gotten to that range, but again, the Rams just stalled out far too many times. All right, let's see here. My bench running backs are Mostert, Etienne, and Mason. Should I drop anyone for estimate? Treat, Tracy, and Rashad. Okay, got it. Mikey, you have to, look, at this point, Mason doesn't need to be on roster unless, again, you want to hold on to him. That's your own prerogative. Christian McCaffrey was at a full capacity yesterday. He played 88% of the snaps, handled 90% of the running back touches, 19 of the 21 total out of the backfield. So it's the Christian McCaffrey show again. He's back. He's ready to go. Voldemort's back. So no real concern in that situation. If you want to hold on to him, you can. Otherwise, if you're looking to hold on to him for maybe another week here, Mostert's your drop. Let's see here. Gerardo says, hi, Andrew. Can you please give us a few rookies and second-year players to go after for Dynasty Leagues? Honestly, I don't play in enough Dynasty Leagues to even begin with that. That would require a full video rather than me just coming off the top of my head. I play in one Dynasty League, and even in that league, it's only a 10-team league, so there's not really a necessity to go after that deep of players. So yeah, at the moment, if you ask me about a specific player, I'm more than happy to talk about them, but just coming off the top of my head with a list of players is probably not as realistic at the moment, Gerardo. Sorry about that. Kamikaze says, trade Chuba Hubbard for Tyreek Hill. It looks like Chuba Hubbard is he's going to be him. He is the lead back. He's not giving that job up anytime soon. But for me personally, I'd say yeah. I would rather trust in Tyreek Hill rest of the way, even how bad their offense looks as of right now. So yeah, I would make the trade, but very much so depending on what kind of running back depth you have in that situation, Kamikaze. Seth says, trade Tyreek Hill for Terry McLaurin and someone. Sure, why not? Look, Terry McLaurin has played very well all season long, so I have no issue with that at all in terms of a potential trade in which you're getting Terry and an additional extra piece for depth. Mark Andrews or Hawkinson this week in a full PPR, thank you. I don't even know which teams they're playing against this week. Minnesota takes on, I couldn't even tell you off the top of my head. But between the two of them, if you're playing in a full PPR, I'd rather play Hawkinson at the moment, especially considering he's getting far more utilization, and he actually looked really good this weekend. All right, let's hear. Abdullah says, I'm going to... Okay, brother. Wow. Okay. Let's not do that anymore, Basil, because then I'm going to have to ban you if you say stuff like that, brother. I'm sorry, but we can't be saying stuff like that. Not even in a joking term, okay? As long as we're on the same page there. Sean says, should I stick with Mooney or grab Bass or Dicker? Mooney? I'm confused. What are we talking? You mean Moody, right? Okay, yeah. Jake Moody. Got it. As of that group, yeah, I would stick with Jake Moody. He's past his bye week. You're not going to have to change him going forward. Let's see here. What candidates should I trade for Tyreek? For Tyreek Hill? When you say for Tyreek, does that mean you're trading for him or are you trading him away? The clarification on that definitely does matter. Frosty says, note, Andrew is saying Mason doesn't have to be on roster as a standalone value, correct? If you're a CMC owner, it's smart to hold on to the bell cow backup. Nope, not Mason. Nope, incorrect. We'll do this again, Frosty. I have said it for 2 weeks now straight. Jordan Mason will not be on any of my rosters rest of season. I have no interest in rostering Jordan Mason. I don't mind being 100% wrong on this, but I do believe I am 100% correct. Jordan Mason has a shoulder injury that continues to flare up. If, in fact, he was to be the starting running back at any point henceforth in the future, I would assume that I can't even start him as a top 24 running back because of said shoulder injury. He has, in 2 of the last 3 games in which he has started in, went in, got injured, left the game, didn't come back. Isaac Guerrero is the primary backup to, and by far and away, of Christian McCaffrey. Are they going to utilize Jordan Mason going forward? Yes, but they used him in the same kind of sense as they utilized Isaac Guerrero yesterday. They both had 1 rushing attempt. That is it. So, I mean, really, Jordan Mason yesterday played 3 snaps. Isaac Guerrero yesterday played 3 snaps. Again, going forward, I have no interest, and I've said this as soon as the beginning of 2 weeks ago, as soon as he got injured in that Sunday night game against the Dallas Cowboys. I have no interest in having him on roster rest of season. I don't even think it's smart to have him on roster because he won't play. He will get hurt again. It's not something that has been resolved in terms of his injury. If you had told me, hey, Andrew, you know what? He went on the IR. He's back 4 weeks later. He's healthy. They say there's no problem, no re-injury rate. Okay, great. But otherwise, until then, not interested. Alfredo or Freddie says, anyone I should target to give away Lamb? I mean, look, giving away Lamb right now is going to be very difficult, especially considering the offense looked like we thought it would, and the defense is completely falling apart, and they've lost the locker room. So, as a whole, I'm going to assume if they continue to stack together losses here, there may be a chance in which Lamb says, hey, you know what, my hamstring hurts a little bit right now. I might not want to play for the rest of the season. So really, I'm just trading him away for anything that I can. Again, I would still say that in a decent matchup, he could very easily produce 13 plus points in a half PPR. But in the instance in which you are playing in a half PPR format, I mean, again, if you can get a DK Metcalf, Evans, Terry McLaurin, if you can get somebody of that caliber, it should have already been done by now, and get out of that situation and go get a wide receiver that's actually associated with a good quarterback in comparison to what Cooper Rush and or Trey Lance are going to present rest of season. So at this point, I'm probably thinking, yeah, let's get into a position to where we're moving away for any wide receiver too. So if you need specific names, I mean, just go up and down the wide receiver list. If you can somehow get a Pickens, it's automatically on your team. If you can get a Cortland Sutton, I think it's even worth it. Neighbors is still a buy low option. Jaden Reed is still available. Go get him. I mean, at this point, I'd venture to say some pretty risky names here, but I'll just relax on those. I mean, I'd even say maybe even Darnell Mooney. I'm not even joking at that point. Deebo Samuel, there's no way you're able to acquire that. Adams, after a really rough game, I'd be willing to go after that. Tank Dell, I'd be willing to go after that. Those are the kind of players. Again, you should understand that when you're associated with a lesser quarterback, you're probably going to get lesser production, but going forward, he will be a 13-point player. It's not like he's going to completely disappear and be 6 points every week. I mean, he would have scored that touchdown if it wasn't for the fact that the sun is beaming through the windows of Dallas Cowboy Stadium and blinding him. Otherwise, he scores a touchdown this week. So he's not all that bad. But again, I'd like a lot of other potential options in comparison. All right. Peyton says, any trade value with Pitts and Devontae Smith? I'd have a hard time thinking that you can trade either of them right now. I'd have a very difficult time thinking so. Now, if the ankle injury that Goddard sustained yesterday is something that is going to hold him out for multiple weeks, then in that position, Devontae Smith will get himself more presented value. But as of right now, the only touchdown scorer on a consistent enough basis in that offense is the rushing upside of Jalen Hurts. And then everybody else is playing second fiddle, including Saquon Barkley. Saquon Barkley this season has 4 really incredible games, and in 5 games that are either below par or mediocre for him, for being Saquon Barkley. So at the moment, I think it's going to be difficult to move somebody like Devontae Smith. Could you go and get a Calvin Ridley? Potentially, but do I want that in the long term? Probably not. Not in the long term, even though he's coming off a 2-touchdown game. I don't know if I want to be investing in the future of Will Levis in that circumstance. But as for Kyle Pitts, what is that? 2 weeks in a row? What did Pitts even do this week? Let's see here. What was his overall target count? I mean, here's the thing about Kyle Pitts. You'd have to find someone that is an outright believer in his overall output. Now, if you're playing in a full PPR, it will be easier, considering, again, he's had a couple weeks here as of late that he's had a pretty high reception count. But again, like I doubt you're going to be able to trade him for an upgrade at tight end. You could take Devontae Smith and Kyle Pitts and go after Kelsey. You could try that. I doubt it'll hit at this point, but you could definitely go after some of those top tier tight ends and see what comes of it. That would be the only potential play, because otherwise, again, Devontae Smith is a tough sell after these last couple weeks here. All right, God's Gang says, would you rather have Leggett or Marvin, MVS, as in Marquez Valdes-Scantling? As of right now, can I even start Marquez Valdes-Scantling? No, I don't think I can objectively start him. He'd have to do multiple weeks of actual consistent production for me to trust it. Because again, if he's a deep ball 50-50 guy, that's what I'm going to get. I'm either going to get 10 points in a week or I'm getting 0 points in the next week. And that in itself is a little bit too risky. Now, am I trusting Leggett over him? I mean, probably not either. I don't want either of those two, quite frankly. So if you want to take the 50-50 and go for MVS, fine. But I don't see a reality in which you're starting MVS unless you are in a super kind of deep league or in a bipocalypse situation. Let's see here. We had a question from Deka, who says, please find my question in the chat. It says, I traded BTJ for JSN and Ingram in a full PPR. Thoughts? Yeah, I don't have an issue with that. That's cool with me. I'm 4-6. I have Evans, Debo, Jamar Chase, Jaden Reed, Adunze, Jamison Williams, Gibbs, Pollard, Spears, Trey McBride, Ray Davis, Justice Hill. I think I'm weak at running back. Any trades? I mean, look, if you were going to trade for a running back, you'd have to use your wide receiver depth. You literally have 4 starters every week. We have Evans, Debo, Chase, and Reed. And again, I mean, I know you just moved BTJ in order to bring in JSN, but you also now have JSN, who could, be a lot of potential upside value. Now, as for making a trade for running back, you'd have to move Pollard. I would assume that it's going to be very difficult in your league in order to move a running back and get one in return. You could theoretically take Pollard at the moment, throw a wide receiver on top of it, and go after James Conner. Potentially even Josh Jacobs. Those would be the guys that I try to go after in that circumstance. Thank you. Brandon DeCoste says, in a 1 quarterback rest of season, Russell Wilson or Kirk Cousins or Sam Darnold. Let me see what their schedules look like in the fantasy playoffs. Let's see what the Atlanta Falcons have to deal with. If we look at their rest of season strength of schedule, Atlanta, weeks 15 through 17, has Las Vegas, New York Giants, and Washington. I like Kirk Cousins a lot in that scenario. If I look at the Steelers, Philadelphia, Baltimore, Kansas City, I don't like Philadelphia or Kansas City as a matchup for him. Baltimore, again, it is a really advantageous matchup in that circumstance. But then your final player here, which is Sam Darnold, Minnesota takes on, let's see here, they take on Chicago, Seattle, and Green Bay. Yeah, I would like to have Kirk Cousins there out of all 3 of those options. Thank you. Moving on to a question that comes in from Abide Los Angeles. It says, in a full PPR, week 15 through 18 playoffs, okay, I got nervous with Henry upcoming schedule, traded him away, okay, Pickens for Nico and Breece. What do you think? You traded away Derrick Henry and Pickens for Nico and Breece Hall. You better really hope that the Jets offense turns it around, because the Jets offense is horrible. They have scored 13 points in the last 2 first halves total. 7 points against the they scored 7 points against the Houston Texans in the first half and 6 points against the Arizona Cardinals. We better hope the Jets turn it around. Otherwise, you will probably regret that decision overall, because really that is the contingency. Like, Nico Collins is going to ball out. That's not a question. But Breece Hall is going to have to pull his weight, considering what Henry and Pickens do as of late and what they'll continue to do rest of season. Brandon DeCoste sends in a follow-up. Oh, okay, never mind. He asked the same question. Thank you very much, Brandon. Appreciate it. Moving on to Jose Torres, who says Dallas Goedert or Tucker Kraft the rest of season. I'd rather have Tucker Kraft the rest of season. Thank you. Frank Grillo says Hill or Gesicki. Taysom Hill or Mike Gesicki. It depends. If Higgins is back, I don't want to play Gesicki. So it's very much so contingent. If T. Higgins plays this week against the Los Angeles Chargers, then I will play Taysom Hill. In the complete opposite spectrum, where if T. Higgins is designated out, I will then play Gesicki. Also, Mahomes, Knicks, or Wilson. as of this week, let's see here. We have week 11. Where's Mahomes at? So they take on Buffalo. Not too interested in that circumstance. Yeah, not so interested there. We have Bo Nix versus Atlanta and Russell Wilson versus... I go Bo Nix number 1. Yeah, probably Mahomes 2 and then Russell Wilson 3 in that order. Peyton Whitaker says, I already, quote-unquote, still have Mark Andrews and Kraft, so tight end is good. Okay, cool. So in that scenario... Yeah. So if you're going to trade away Kyle Pitts, considering you already have tight end talent on roster, then you're just going after a wide receiver upgrade. I'd honestly tell you to go after Jaden Reed right now if you're still capable of potentially getting him in return. Levant sends in a question, says, now what's a better trade? Chase for AJ Brown and Higgins or Chase for Collins and Kyren? Okay, so Chase for AJ Brown and Higgins or Chase for Collins and Kyren or maybe Jacobs. Okay, in my opinion, I would rather have the Collins and Kyren combo rest of season. That's what I prefer. Thank you. God's Gang sends in a question, says, I need an RB2 for week 12. Available is the guys like Warren, Spears, Benson, Edwards, Estime. I would be playing Najee as my number 1. I've got 6 players on bye. Okay, so let's see here. Let me go look at NFL week 12 schedule. And let's see here. So in week 12, there are 6 teams on bye. The Falcons, Buffalo Bills, Bengals, Jaguars, Saints, and Jets. Okay. So in the event of that situation, of the available options you have, I would play Estime against the Raiders. It's either him against the Raiders or Jalen Warren against the Browns. Looking at the rest of the overall talent pool and the upcoming matchups, that's what I'd go after if I could get it done. Thank you. Travis sends in a question, says, traded Pollard/Kraft for Bowers. Okay. I don't know what exactly your running back depth looks like, Travis, you're able to give away a guy like Pollard, but I don't mind the trade overall. Again, the trade is going to be 100% contingent on what exactly we see from the offense of the Raiders going forward. If they start Gardner Minshew, you have no problem. But if they come out this week and they name Desmond Ridder to the starting quarterback, we are in absolute shambles. Time will tell as to whether or not, again, they'd only put Desmond Ridder there at quarterback if they're trying to ensure they get the number 1 NFL draft pick. So, which again, they very easily could be going after. Chicana Raider says, what's up, Andrew? Questions in the chat. All right, thank you. Says, I'm currently 5-5 in a full PPR. Should I trade Kareem, Devontae Smith for Justin Jefferson and James Cook? Oh, sorry, that's not Kareem. That's Kamara. Apologies. Yes, I would make that trade. It's not even close. I would immediately 1,000% take Justin Jefferson and James Cook over Kamara and Devontae Smith. It is not even remotely close. If somebody is offering you JJ and Cook, insta accept it right now before they change their mind and come to their senses. Thank you. Rob Castle in the chat says, I played Rico instead of Bucky. If I played Bucky, I would have won. Yeah, listen, both of the running backs for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers significantly, first and foremost, both of them found the end zone, which is a difficult thing in its first iteration. But yeah, I would say that going forward after this week, Bucky probably starts on your team every single game. I would have legitimately thought there would have been a little bit more of a competitiveness out of the Cowboys to where at least Rico catches the ball 5 times. Not even a single, I don't even know, man. That was a rough game to watch. I don't know if you guys watched that Cowboys game. They looked awful without Dak out there. They've looked bad this year, even with Dak out there, but still, it was a disaster from the get-go. Thoughts on Achane, Kyren, and Lamb? Achane and Kyren, I have no worries about. Lamb, again, when you're associated with Cooper Rush at quarterback and you're taking on an elite defense, there's a problem. But when we look at the Cowboys' upcoming schedule here, right? You have to take on another great defense this week in the Houston Texans. Not a great look. Then you have to take on the Washington Commanders, which again, it will be Marshawn Lattimore coverage. Not easy. Then you'll have to take on the New York Giants. That's a kind of a breather week. The Cincinnati Bengals, I would argue, is another breather week. Carolina's a breather week. Tampa Bay's a breather week. And then, yeah, honestly, as soon as you get to week 13 and beyond, Lamb should be fine. Under the assumption he's playing, and at least Cooper Rush is playing quarterback. If it's Trey Lance, it's a disaster. Kyron Williams ACL says Tyreek Hill and Breece Hall for Kyron and T. Higgins. Wow, we think T. Higgins is just as valuable there in the long run. I don't mind it. I'm cool with that. I think T. Higgins, once healthy at a full capacity, sure, is going to be very valuable. The only question I have, Kyren Williams, ACL. Going forward, are you going to be in a really tough position if you do not have T. Higgins for another, let's say, 1 week here? And then let's say, for example, let's see here. If I'm not mistaken, the Bengals have an upcoming bye week. Do they not? Yes. So the Bengals have a week 12 bye. I'm going to guess that T. Higgins does not play this week, and then he subsequently will not play the next week. So you won't get T. Higgins until week 13, which is, Thanksgiving week? If you can survive without him for another 2 weeks, sure. But, really, I think you're giving up a little bit too much and risking a lot if you're not already, secured to be a top 2 seed in the fantasy playoffs. Peyton Whitaker sends in a follow-up, says, happy birthday, thank you. It says, I have Hunt, I have White, I have Mostert, I have Warren, plus McLaughlin. Okay, so McLaughlin's never startable. Mostert is very rarely startable. Hunt is eventually going to disappear. And you have White and Warren. So basically, looking at your running back depth, Peyton, let's try to address that. If you can, see if you can get Pacheco. And I'm not even joking. That might be the easiest potential running back in order to potentially get in return. If not a Pacheco-esque player, you could go try to get a Brian Robinson who's been injured the last couple weeks and see if you can potentially scoop in on that, considering he has been hurt and has missed some time here. If not him, at this point, there's really such a small, kind of depth group of running back that I don't think giving away Devontae Smith and Pitts will get you back what you want. But hey, maybe you can go buy in on Tracy. Maybe you can go buy in on DeAndre Swift, players that potentially. Maybe let me see here. Let me look across the board. There's no way someone's giving you Rashad White or Bucky Irving at this point. So, it's got to be like a Brian Robinson. Maybe you go buy low on an Alexander Madison and hope the offense is somewhat relevant going forward. Maybe you go buy low on an ETN and hope that Tank Bigsby's ankle injury is more of a problem than initially expected. Otherwise, again, there's running back. There's a small pool of players that are actually good, and then the rest is a wasteland or an inconsistent group of players in that circumstance. So in your case, again, if you can go after the Najees, the Tracys of the world, send it. See if not, Pacheco, in order to kind of secure your investment on what you have with Hunt right now. Chalateca09 says, drop Javonte Williams for estimate in a 12-team full PPR. Yes, absolutely. Javonte barely played, and this is the fewest amount of touches he has seen all season long. 1 rushing attempt on Sunday. He's done. It is the Audric Estime show going forward. The only time that Javonte Williams will be consistently involved is in games in which he's probably going to catch the ball 4 times, which again, it's going to happen, but is it going to be enough to where you're starting him? Absolutely not. Cinco2X sends in a question, says, Daniel Jones over Murray almost killed me. Won by 0.4. Congratulations on the win. Yeah, Kyler played ridiculously well. At this point, I think we're getting to the point where even if there are games where Kyler is going to disappear because the running game is far too relevant, we just have to play him anyway. Even in games in which we expect the Cardinals to win, we have to roll with him, regardless. It almost has to be a blind play henceforth. We can't even get cute with it anymore. And if he burns us, he burns us. It is what it is. Let's see here. We had a question from Kize in the chat. It says, should CD owners be looking for potential trades for more depth? If you can, yes, absolutely. Toby in the chat says, I have Hurts, Pacheco, Montgomery, Bucky, CD, Devontae, DJ Moore. Interesting. So yeah, you have pretty much Toby, your wide receiver core is cooked, brother. It is this. It is. Whew. Frosty says, I wonder what the Texans defense 3+ interception betting multiplier is worth. Yeah, whatever it is, it's probably it might hit actually. We'll have to wait and see though. That's yeah, that one is looking interesting. Yeah, Texans, I did not expect them to force 5 interceptions. Jared Goff he looked like a bus driver out there. Again, he just looked like the Jared Goff of old, the guy that was the starting quarterback of the Rams, where anytime they played the 49ers, he'd come out and just throw 6 picks and leave. That's what he looked like. He looked like a guy that really was driving the most luxurious bus, which is one of the best offenses in the National Football League, which is the Lions offense, and was trying to drive it off the cliff last night. That's what he was looking like, at least. Alex says 1 fumble from Estime and Javonte's back in. That's the risk you have to take, right? Because otherwise, what are you doing holding on to Javonte? Can you even comfortably start him every week? No. I mean, his recent production, the only really good game he has had is against New Orleans. Outside of that game where he scored touchdowns, you go look at every single situation in which they've been in the red zone, they rarely give him the ball. If they're on the goal line, they are doing a quarterback sneak. If they're 5 yards out, they're throwing the ball to McLaughlin. He does not score in the red zone ever. So again, they're never going to give him the ball on the ground. If he catches the ball out of the backfield, it's never in the red zone because that's McLaughlin's job. So really, they pretty much phased him out of the offense as a whole, which isn't a surprise because again, this is one of his final years on his rookie contract. They have no interest in re-signing him because that is the Sean Payton way. They want to get rid of him and get guys that they drafted in the building. Let's see here. Devontae Adams droppable? No, he's not droppable. I dropped Kyler for Jaden Daniels about 3 weeks ago. I don't blame you for that, though. At all. I don't blame you for that. That's Jaden Daniels. Jaden Daniels, up until this most recent performance, has been playing very well. Drop Leggett for Coker? No, I'd rather drop Leggett for Adam Thielen. C. Miles sends in a question, says, trade Kupp and Andrews for Tyreek. I have Kelsey. Wow. I'm going to say no. I don't want to give up Kupp for Tyreek Hill. I don't think I'm comfortable doing that yet. I might be an idiot saying that, but I'm going to stick with that. I do not want to give away Kupp for Tyreek Hill. That offense does not look functionable. Not enough to where I would be feeling comfortable in that circumstance yet. Let's see here. Kamikaze had sent in a question. Says, trade away Bucky and Brian Robinson for Neighbors and Brooks? No. I have Hubbard, No, not interested. Again, if you were in desperate need of a wide receiver, I'd go after somebody that's associated with a better quarterback. Neighbors' issue is that he has Daniel Jones associated with him. And every single week after Daniel Jones has a game, I'm not even joking, for the last 5 consecutive weeks, I have seen a report from, I'm trying to remember what's the outlet. I see it on NBC Sports every time. And there's an actual update and notification that goes to my phone. Every single Monday after their game, Brian Daboll has to reassure the press Daniel Jones will continue to be our starting quarterback. Eventually, they're going to get to a point where they're not going to start him anymore. And I don't know if Drew Lock and or Tommy DeVito are going to elevate the potential of Neighbors, but I have no interest in trading into that conversation, considering what you have to give away. I'd rather go after a more stable wide receiver that is associated with a quarterback that I don't have to worry about. Especially considering you're giving away Bucky, which again, if you look at the upcoming schedule for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, I would not surprise me if Bucky is a top 15, top 16 running back rest of the way from weeks 12 and beyond. I'm not even joking. Looking at that schedule, it is crazy advantageous. Let's see here. Kyron Williams ACL says, Tyreek and Brees for Christian McCaffrey. Whew, wow. Am I willing to go that far? Oh, wow. Probably not. Probably not. Not so interested there. For Christian McCaffrey, Christian McCaffrey could potentially score 25 points in a week. Very easily. Scores a touchdown this last week. He has himself 20 points. No problem. But in the event if we're in a situation in which Tyreek Hill does come back to being his normal self, or at least Breece Hall is going to be better than 10 points per week, I think you'll regret it. So I probably just keep it as is. Dylan sends in a question. Says, in a full PPR, we have Jonathan Taylor or Hall for the playoffs. Week 15 through 17, okay, let me look at their schedules here. So in regards to what the Indianapolis Colts have to face in weeks 15 through 17, the Colts, let's see, they take on Denver, Tennessee, and the New York Giants, which I don't mind. Looking at the Jets schedule, Jaguars, Rams, and Buffalo. Here's my issue, okay? Are the Jets a good enough team to get into that position and even help hit? Honestly, I'm going to say Jonathan Taylor. That's what I'm going to say. I'm going to say Jonathan Taylor is the preferred. I do like Hall's matchups a little bit more, but I don't know if the offense is fine-tuned enough to be even, maybe by the time they get to week 15, they may be, but at the moment, I'd rather have Jonathan Taylor rest season. Jonathan Cushman sends in a question, says, I'm 5-5 in a full PPR, 12 teams. We have Jalen Hurts, Travis Etienne, Tyron Tracy, Chase, BTJ, McBride, McConkey. With Pearsall, Ray Davis, Mason, Jonathan Brooks, and Adunze. Any trades? If so, who do I who with trade deadline this week? Okay, understood. Tracy stays, Chase stays, BTJ's got to move. So BTJ and I think Etienne have to move. And well, you know what the issue is? You don't have any other wide receivers. Okay. So this is what I'm going to say. Depending on what Trevor Lawrence shoulder injury kind of revolves around, if that injury is brutal enough to where we're in a situation here where he potentially misses a significant amount of time or gets shut down for the remainder of the season, considering their current record, BTJ's value goes out the window. Like we just saw this most recent week. Let me see. How many points did BTJ even have for fantasy? Brian Thomas Jr. Yeah. 2 receptions for 12 yards. I don't like their fantasy playoff schedule either. So I think BTJ is the guy that you're trying to move in order to try to upgrade a wide receiver. Now, in regards to your bench, Pearsall, Ray Davis, Mason, Jonathan Brooks. I mean, again, Ray Davis handcuff, Mason handcuff, Jonathan Brooks handcuff. Adunze maybe could be something very similar to Pearsall, but time will tell. That offense is significantly a lesser option in comparison to what the 49ers present. So Pearsall is a significantly better player in the long term. So really, you just have handcuffs and potential project players on your bench as it currently stands. Really, Jalen Hurts is a keep, Tracy's a keep, McBride's a keep, Chase is a keep, and that's basically it. That's your pillars. If you wanted to make a huge upgrade legitimately, the way you go about it is trading Jalen Hurts for 3 different players. You trade for a quarterback, a running back, and a wide receiver, and you try to fleece somebody and try to get an upgrade on BTJ. If moving Hurts and BTJ, is what allows for it, so be it. Otherwise, I'm moving BTJ 1-for-1 for another wide receiver. As for who I'm specifically going after, I mean, at this point, it's going to be tough to move a wide receiver that has had that low of production as of late. Additionally, doesn't have a starting quarterback. So I'm going to assume that you're not going to get, you might get a Josh Downs in exchange. You might get lucky, but no one's giving you Marvin Harrison. No one's giving you Cortland Sutton. No one's giving you George Pickens, Khalil Shakir's. Devontae Smith is probably not on the table either. Calvin Ridley's probably not on the table. You're going to have to really dig to the bottom of the barrel and maybe just throw him for Cedric Tillman and hope for the best. That's what you'll probably have to do. Otherwise, you have to take Jalen Hurts and legitimately break him off for 3 pieces. And even though he's worth, in terms of value, that many pieces, I think that might be the actual only play in which somebody's actually willing to make a trade with you, because otherwise it would be very difficult to move BTJ alone. Corey Miller says, in a 12-team full PPR, I'm 7-4 and I'm in 3rd place, 2nd in points. My team is decimated by injuries. I have Goff, Aaron Jones, Connor, Rico, Bucky, Amon-Ra, London, BTJ, Olave, Kittle, Akers, Benson, Pearsall. Thoughts on trades? Honestly, I don't see your team being as quote-unquote decimated as you kind of portrayed. Jones is, based on what we heard earlier today from the head coach, Kevin O'Connell of the Minnesota Vikings, Aaron Jones is expected to play this week. Connor's fine. Bucky's fine. Amon-Ra's fine. London looked great. Kittle's healthy. Goff will be fine. I think you're fine. I don't think you need to make any moves. Am I in the same business of telling you to trade BTJ and Olave? Yes, you should trade both of them. If you can get back anybody that'll help you in the short term or potentially in the long term for fantasy playoffs, go for it, Corey. Michael Barton says, would you trade Tyreek for Evans? I would. Personally, I would. Because I look at that schedule for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I see how good this offense is. Dude, they have competed with the 49ers and the Kansas City Chiefs and the Baltimore Ravens without their top 2 receivers. This team is a actual powerhouse. Imagine once they get their talent back in the form of Mike Evans, he's going to be just a dominant force. Q Verks sends it a question. Says, Bijan, Swift, Hunt, Javonte, Rashad White, Pacheco. Okay, Q, what is your question though? Says, who do I play and drop? If you're dropping one of these players, it's Javonte Williams. He's off the roster immediately. As to who you're playing this week, it's very much so dependent on a couple of factors. First and foremost, Rashad White is on a bye week, so you can't play him. Pacheco, we don't know if he's going to play. We're going to assume he's not going to this week. So then it's pretty much left with Bijan, Swift, and Hunt, which again, you'd start Bijan 1, Hunt 2, Swift 3. Thank you. All right, let's see here. Yours truly sends in a question. Where is your question? It says, hey, Drew, I'm currently 6-4 in a 14-man full PPR. My team consists of Kyler, JT, Jacobs, Hunt, Brooks, CD, Cup, Higgins, and Kelsey. Not a full team, but only stars. I have but the only stars I have. What can I do to improve? Thanks, Drew. Okay. So of the available here, Kyler's solid. You're not really moving him. Of course, you're looking to pick up a quarterback this week in order to try to, fill in for the absence of him. But other than that, like JT is solid. Joshua Jacobs is solid. Kareem Hunt is eventually going to disappear, but you have 2 solid running backs. Josh Jacobs has already passed his bye week. The only issue is that Jonathan Taylor hasn't, and you'll have to, most likely start Jonathan Brooks in the upcoming future in order to fill in for him, which will be rough. But again, I'm still okay with it. You have 2 solid running backs, keep them. You have solid quarterback, great. You have Kelsey, keep it. Wide receiver is really the only thing. If you believe that you're not going to be able to make the playoffs in a 14-team league, because let's say, for example, only 6 teams out of 14 make the playoffs, T. Higgins might be somebody that you have to move. Because if he's going to miss this week because he has a bye week next week and they want to have him healthy post-bye, you're probably in a situation where you have to move him. And then you're probably in a situation similarly in which you probably have to, you could probably keep CeeDee Lamb, but yeah, you'd have to move Higgins. And you'd have to do so relatively quickly. But let's see what Wednesday's practice report says. If he doesn't participate at all, at that point, I'd be looking to try to move him, especially if you're playing in a league where only 6 teams make the playoffs. Now, if you're in a league where 8 of the 14 teams make the playoffs and you can get in with 7 or 8 wins, then you can hold on to it and just keep it moving because I think it's a really strong team across the board. All right, Drew says, start up Discord. See what I sent. Okay, did you win by a half a point again? Let me see here. What did you send here? All right, he said, I didn't have to worry about anything. Look at this clutch. Oh, man. Dude, the volume of times that you have won on Monday night, ever so barely. Did they have anybody going tonight? They had Caleb Williams. Wow, that's... Oof. They had Kyron. You got so lucky, dude. You got lucky Kyron doesn't catch that ball. You're lucky that Matthew Stafford is blind. You had Ray McLeod playing this week. Hey, listen, we'll take it. Like I said, you had nothing to worry about. You cashed in a quick dub. Congrats. Trevor Lim says, might sound a little crazy, but start Tedrick Tillman over Debo next week. The 49ers take on the Seahawks. I wouldn't go that far. I'm going to have Tillman really highly ranked, but I won't have him ahead of Debo. But I understand where you're going with the overall thought process. So I don't think you're crazy. I think I can understand the overall thought process behind it. Sean K says Smith is injured and has been underperforming. Yeah, look, he's been on the injury report. As to whether it has actually made a huge impact on, in terms of his overall play, it's arguable. You'd say probably because, again, if he's missed any sort of practice time, it's because he's been a little bit banged up. But, how many other players over the course of this entire season have been dealing with injuries and still come out and perform? There's a lot of them, right? So, even though we can use that as a potential of an excuse, the fact of the matter is he still doesn't get enough targets. That's the crux of the issue. They don't give him opportunity, much less whether he plays well. If you gave him the chance, maybe he plays well. But they don't throw him the ball because they don't even need to get him implicated within a lot of these blowouts that they're having. What's a reasonable receiver to go after giving up Debo and Hawkinson? Oh, man. If you're giving up Debo and Hawkinson, especially after the week that Hawkinson just had, I would venture to say you probably go knock on the door of... I think it depends, right? I would probably be in the business of knocking on an A.J. Brown door or an Amon-Ra St. Brown door of sorts. But, again, you need top-tier return because I still believe that Debo has a lot of value rest of the season. And Hawkinson, especially to a team that doesn't have a tight end, presents a lot of potential for upside in that circumstance. So, yeah, if it was me, I'd probably go after those kind of players. An Amon-Ra, maybe a Terry McLaurin if I'm desperate. But at that point, I'd rather just keep Debo. So, yeah, unless you're getting an Amon-Ra or an A.J. Brown, I don't know if anything else is worth it. Let's see here. Full PPR trade Pollard and Leggett for Connor. James, I would, yes. Ash says, what's up, Andrew? Would you rather have CeeDee Lamb or Malik Neighbors rest of season? I'd rather have Malik Neighbors as of right now. Gus says, what receivers would be... Okay, we took care of that. Angel says, Kittle has a hammy injury. Yeah, let's hope let's hope that's not going to be a long-term thing, though. Okay, fingers crossed. Again, they have to legally put them on the injury report. He's a tough son of a gun, though, so hopefully he plays through it and, of course, delivers for our teams because we need him right now. Stroops says, what's up, Drew? Can you prioritize these waiver pickups? Yeah, what do we have? Jennings, Tillman, Myers, Pearsall. Cool. Let me write these names down really quickly, and then I'll order it. So you have Jennings, Tillman, Myers, and Pearsall. Okay, so this is the way that I go about it. In terms of the order at which I want them, number 1 is Tillman. Number 2 is Myers. Number 3 is Jennings. Number 4 is Pearsall. So Tillman, Myers, Jennings, Pearsall. That is the order in which I prioritize them for this upcoming waiver period in your league. Thank you. Tony Lopez says trade away BTJ for Jacoby Myers. Only if, in fact, Gardner Minshew's starting a quarterback. If we have to deal with Desmond Ridder as a starting quarterback, I don't know if it's worth it at that point. Let's see here. Sweet. Okay, cool. Sounds good. I had enough for DJ Moore. I dropped him for Cedric Tillman. I don't blame you. It's really just the entire Bears offense, right? It's just Caleb Williams just doesn't have enough protection and definitely struggles in that scenario. I feel like a complete noob. Really thought every single answer you were giving was Patreon subscribers. When I win my league, I'll send you proceeds. Brother, what are you talking about? Okay. No, I don't only answer donation questions. Listen, if you send in a donation, right, like a super chat, it's just a claim priority because like you want to get your answer and then you want to get out of here, right? Because you don't want to just sit here all day. That's the only reason I prioritize those, right? You give me your hard-earned money, and I'm going to try to prioritize it and, of course, save you some time and hopefully help you in that given question. But, yeah, I don't just only answer those. That would be absolutely ridiculous. Jesse says, thoughts on Davante Adams? Pretty good target share. Terrible quarterback play. Additionally, he looks pretty washed, I'm going to be honest. They just don't look good as an offense as a whole. It just feels like they're trying to fit a circular object into a square peg or vice versa. A square object into a circular peg. It doesn't seem like everything's fitting and everything is functioning at a high rate. So as of right now, we're going to continue to treat him as a wide receiver too because he still is. Just got to hope that they, click. He had multiple opportunities. He dropped 2 receiving touchdowns. So it's not like he was not implicated to score. He had his opportunities, just couldn't come down with them. What do I do with Devontae? I have Devontae Smith, Debo, and yeah, so look, Davante Adams, again, like I just mentioned, he'll be fine. Devontae Smith, very much so dependent on whether he gets target opportunity. Calvin Ridley looks great. Debo is okay. So going forward, it's probably like if you're playing two of these players, again, it's probably going to be like a Debo, a Davante Adams combo. If you're playing 3 of them, as of right now, it's probably Debo, Davante, and Ridley. Let's see. It says, I flipped Christian McCaffrey in week 2 for Chase. Made a few more trades. I have Daniels, Chase, Sun God, Tyreek, Kyron, Jacobs, Hunt, Tracy, Bigsby, and Kelsey. Any moves? Happy birthday. Thank you. Appreciate it, JH. I mean, look, in terms of the team that you've constructed, Daniels doesn't move. Obviously, you should prepare for his upcoming bye week by picking up a quarterback in order to secure that kind of a win. But Jamar Chase, Sun God, Tyreek Hill. I mean, really, is there any improvements to make on those wide receivers? I'd say no. Unless you're trading Tyreek Hill for an A.J. Brown, I don't think I'm moving. Unless you're moving, Tyreek Hill or Sun God for Justin Jefferson, I'm not moving. Kyron, Jacobs, and Hunt is relatively solid. I think Tracy is a great backup for when Hunt does disappear. You can play him henceforth, and Kelsey's the best tight end in football right now. So as of right now, I don't think there's a requirement to have to make any moves in your scenario unless someone is going to give you a significant upgrade. And let's say, for example, somebody takes Sun God and, Kareem Hunt off your hands. Great. Give me Justin Jefferson and we'll call it a day. Checkmate says, good evening. Trade question, full PPR. Trade Tyrone Tracy for Cortland Sutton. Depends on running back depth. I'd say sure if, in fact, you are in desperate need of a wide receiver. But if Tyrone Tracy is a starter for you, a top 2 running back, it'd be very difficult for us to move him, especially with the upcoming schedule ahead and how great he's looked thus far this season. But yeah, if you're in a situation where, let's say, he's your RB4 on roster and you're in desperate need of a wide receiver 2 going forward, wide receiver 3 to play in that kind of a format, then yeah, I don't mind that. Rob Castle says, drop Mostert for Estime. Yeah, we can do that. Would you try to get Christian McCaffrey by giving Gibbs? I would. I would give Gibbs for Christian McCaffrey immediately. Hey, is Pittman droppable? David, I would say probably not, unless we get information regarding Pittman Jr. going to the injured reserve or having a season-ending injury / surgery. Unless something like that was to be presented, I would just leave him in your IR spot. I don't think I need to hastily drop him because he still has value with Flacco going forward. Ash says, thank you. Who is a reasonable receiver I can get for CeeDee Lamb at this point? I have Devontae Smith, Calvin Ridley out my wide receivers, Tyrone Tracy, Bijan, and Jahmyr Gibbs as my running backs. It's a 10-team league. Concerned with CeeDee rest of season. Yeah, so like I was mentioning earlier, these are a couple names that I'm just going to throw out that you could potentially go after. Again, this is under the assumption that again, the offense for the Cowboys could very easily switch from Cooper Rush one week to have Trey Lance start the next week, and it could go to complete garbage and could be a complete disaster. And you never know. It gets to a point where they have 3 wins and 10 losses, and you're getting close to the fantasy playoffs, and CeeDee Lamb's like, you know what? My hamstring hurts. I'm not going to play for the rest of the season, right? Anything like that could occur. My shoulder's starting to bug me again. So we're going after many of players. A couple of players that I want to begin with. Mike Evans, please and thank you. If they want to give that to you, we'll take it happily. Another player that I'm willing to go after, a DK Metcalf. Fantastic. If we can have it, we'll take it. Jaden Reed, I will take. Zay Flowers, I will take. Malik Neighbors, I will take. George Pickens, I will take. What else? Deebo Samuel, Devontae Adams, Garrett Wilson, Tyreek Hill. I'd even be so bold to pretend. Well, no, let's not go that crazy. Okay, those are reasonable names. Now, if I was put in a very desperate situation, I would take, legitimately, I'm not even joking. In a desperate enough situation, I will take a Darnell Mooney. I will take a Cedric Tillman. I will take a JSN. I may even push as far to take a Tank Dell. But that's in a very desperate situation. Desperate times sometimes calls for desperate measures, of course. If it needed to be mentioned, yes, I will take a Cup. I will take a Puka. Thank you. But those are a bunch of names. Pretty much any wide receiver in that top 24, I would rather have over Lamb right now. Because, dude, it doesn't look great. Doesn't look great right now. Trade Waddle and Tua for a bag of chips. I mean, maybe, you know those Trader Joe's has these banana chocolate chip muffins. I don't know if you guys have ever had it. Incredible. Absolutely elite level bakery over there. Maybe you can get like a half of a box. Like usually they come in packs of 4 muffins, the banana muffins with the chocolate chips inside of them. Typically they come with 4. Trust me, I'm a fat ass, I know. You might be able to get 2 of them in exchange for Waddle and Tua right now. Let's see here. Jeremy Roberts says full PPR. Okay, let's see here. Freiermuth over Ferguson rest of season. You know what I don't like? Freiermuth doesn't see the ball either. Like he scored a touchdown, which is great, but dude, I don't really feel like it's a great. Yeah, no, I don't think so. I think I'd still rather have Ferguson. The matchup against the Eagles is not an easy one for tight ends. They've locked down tight ends all season long. I will just attribute that to the overall reason as to why he disappeared yesterday. So I'd still rather have Ferguson rest of the way. Alan Gonzalez says, should I keep Quentin Johnston or go after Tillman, Judy, or Douglas? I'd much rather have Tillman and or Judy. Either of those two. If you can get either of those two, I'd be willing to swap off of Quentin Johnston at the moment. But I would not drop him for Douglas. Quentin Johnston scores another touchdown this week. Again, he's great. So he's still going to be highly implicated within the offense. But yes, if you can get Tillman or Judy, do that. Big Al says, trade Reed, Rashad White, Breece Hall, or TJ for Nakua and Bijan. Trade Reed, Rashad White, Hall, and TJ Hawkinson for Nakua and Bijan. Okay. It depends on what the rest of your roster looks like, Big Al. If you could do me a favor and type it completely out in the chat, that'd be greatly appreciated. Then at that point, I can get a little bit of an understanding as to why you would go a 4 for 2. Because if you have, let's say, for example, you're like, Andrew, I have Hawkinson here. He's trade fodder because I have Kelsey. He's already had his bye week. I'm going to start him rest of the way. Beautiful. Fantastic. Then you proceed to tell me, Andrew, listen, in this situation, Rashad White never really starts for my team anyway. So all I'm really giving away is these 2 pieces for these 2 pieces. If that is the kind of situation you're in, Big Al, then I'd say yes, let's make that move. But otherwise, probably not. Again, the context of the rest of your team is very much so important in this scenario. It says trade Waddle and Tua. Okay, for Baker and Khalil Herbert. I have Chase Brown. I mean, look, Khalil Herbert isn't something that I want. So, I mean, at this point, I'll just take them for Baker. If they give you Khalil on top of it, sure, we'll take that. Okay, thank you. Appreciate it. Ash says, appreciate the advice. No problem. Nick L in the chat says, so I heard I'm dropping Tua even though he plays Las Vegas this week. No, listen, that's not what you heard, brother. Okay, now you're putting words in my mouth. What I said was, somebody asked, what can I trade Waddle and Tua for? And my response was, you would get you'd get 2 banana muffins from Trader Joe's in exchange for him. That's what you would get. I don't think anybody wants to actively trade for him because, again, the offense as a whole, oftentimes when they get into the red zone is predicated on running touchdowns. Again, last season, they were the number one team in terms of total rushing touchdowns scored, tied with San Francisco and Detroit. Even this game, they had Washington ran in a rushing touchdown. If it wasn't for the lucky overall passing touchdown to Tyreek Hill, Tua has 0 touchdowns in this game and it has multiple turnovers. So, even then, a fumble and an interception, it negated his touchdown anyway. So in the long term, yeah, you're not dropping him going into this week. I think he's got a great matchup. Believe me, he's great. But for trade purposes, I don't think anybody's interested. Mikey said, not going to lie, Andrew, you'd probably fleece me in my league. You just sold me on the detailed banana muffin trade amazingly. Listen, those banana muffins, guys, from Trader Joe's, listen, okay? I'm telling you from firsthand experience, this is anecdotal evidence. They are really good, okay? JH says, earlier response, I have Kyler as my backup to Jaden. Okay, understood. Someone rage drop Kyler, Estime, or Bijan? I'd rather, or Bigsby, excuse me. Estime or Bigsby? That's a really good question. It depends on Bigsby's injury, but in the same vein, when I look at the Jaguars' upcoming schedule here, if they're going to give more and more opportunity going in the direction of ETN, which is very much so possible considering he's looking healthier, and now, unfortunately, we have an injury to Bigsby. When I look at their upcoming schedule of Detroit this week, don't love it. Then a bye week. Then they take on Houston, Tennessee. Then they take on New York Jets, Las Vegas, Tennessee. As of right now, I'd honestly take the risk on Estime. I legitimately would. I just hope that maybe he's put into positions to succeed. Because I don't really trust that I'm going to start Bigsby at all rest of season. Maybe against the Jets. Maybe in the, week 16? Like week 15 against the Jets, week 16 against Las Vegas? Maybe. So you can hold on to him until then. But who knows? Maybe by the time we get there, ETN's taking his job back. There's always the possibility of that. So I think I'd rather just have the player that is going to give me a little bit of value now and maybe a little bit of hope for the future based on their current kind of exposure to opportunity. Philip says, dynasty trade Hubbard for Reed or Flowers? Who am I trading for, Reed or Flowers? I'd rather legitimately have Reed. Honestly. I think in the long term, Reed will be more valuable. Flowers has looked incredible this year. Don't get me wrong. But the way that offense is kind of functioning, they keep bringing in more and more pieces. Like, that's my only concern. They keep bringing in more and more competition for targets. And it's already an offense that doesn't throw the ball very much. And yes, is he he's the number one, which gives him an advantage. Actually, you know what? Now that I'm thinking about it, Mark Andrews is pretty much out the door almost. If we're looking about the future, I think I'd still rather have Reed. I don't know. I could be wrong on that, but I'm leaning towards Reed at the moment. But obviously, thus far this season, Flowers has outplayed him in almost every instance. So Flowers is probably the smart way to go. I just don't know what it is. I have a feeling that going forward, Jordan Love will ascend to being worth the contract they gave him. What is he, the highest paid quarterback in NFL history or something? Alo says, follow up on the trade question for Gibbs for Christian McCaffrey. What tier player should I add to sweeten the deal with Gibbs for McCaffrey? I have Tracy. That's too much. Yeah, that's too much. I have Bijan and Connor. Those are too much as well. Any suggestions on some players you'd add? It depends on what you have available. Just tell me what you have available, and I'll tell you the exact player I would throw on top of it. Just type it in the chat. Nick L says, going for a playoff rush. It's possible. I'm 5-5. I have Kyler, Tua, Christian McCaffrey, Chase Brown, Gibbs, Tracy. Okay, pretty solid team. JJ London, McLaurin. Okay, Flowers, Higgins. Dude, you have a more than capable team. I think, you have a more than capable team. I'm not even worried in your scenario, Nick. Unless you walk into a buzzsaw where someone drops a 55-point Jamar Chase week on top of your head, I don't think you're going to have a problem. Jeremiah Mendoza sends in a question. Thank you very much, Jeremiah. Jeremiah says, in a 10-team PPR, we're 4-6. We have Love, Amon-Ra, Brees, Chase, Brown. We have Tracy, Rico, Connor. Okay, pretty solid running backs. Again, Connor, Brees Hall, Chase Brown, Tracy. You have 4 solid. I don't know how many you can start in a given week, but again, considering the upcoming bye weeks, it is very smart to have that depth because Tracy and Connor are both on a bye this week. So you have Brees and Chase Brown to overall fill in for them. And then eventually both of those running backs will go on bye, and then you'll need you'll need Tracy and Connor to fill in for them. So you're good with the running back depth. I'm not moving anything there. Potentially, if someone wants Rico Dowdle, they can have him. Now, as for your next overall situation with the wide receiver, you have Hopkins, Waddle, Olave. I think Olave needs to be traded, especially considering you're 4-6. He's on the IR. Chances are he doesn't return until the fantasy playoffs. And even if he plays this year, you never know. Concussions are a tricky one. They may shut him down for the whole season. So in your position, you find a team in your league that has a playoff, or looks like they're going to secure a playoff position in the upcoming, future. Maybe they have 6 or 7, 8 wins maybe. You trade them Olave for pretty much peanuts. See what kind of depth you can get in return. And then you have Njoku, you have Taysom, you have Elijah. Okay, cool. Any moves to make? Yeah, that's the primary move that I'm looking for. White for JSN. If you have Rashad White, yeah, I would trade him for JSN. But that's only if it's this team, because you didn't mention having White here, so it depends on what scenario it's in. But as of right now, yeah, I'm trying to move Waddle or I'm trying to move Olave, maybe even both of them to a team that is secured enough to where they can wait for them to finally find relevance. You can't, because again, you're 4-6, you got to win now. Lou sends in a question, says PPR, Moore is unstartable, correct? You are absolutely correct. Could I try for running back or tight end? You can definitely try to trade him for one of those positions, but I mean, just looking at his most recent production, how do we begin to broach the opportunity of trading him? Like, if in a full PPR, his last 4 games, 6, 5.4, 7.3, 5.7. He has quite literally scored a total of, let's see here, 6 plus 5.4 plus 5.7 plus 7.3. He has scored 24 points in the last 4 games. He's averaging 6 points per game in a PPR. There are very few volume of players that you're going to be able to get in exchange for him, unless someone is willing to give away their tight end too. Like, let's say, for example, someone has, let's throw this out here. Let's say someone has Ferguson and Hawkinson, and they're like, you know what? I already have Hawkinson. I'll give you Ferguson for free. Take him. Give me DJ Moore. You could do something like that if your tight end position is completely battered and has no depth. But really, I think it's almost impossible to move him. Off of that alone, like, I understand his upcoming schedule. Let's see here. DJ Moore. Let's see, Bears schedule. Like, even if their schedule looks great, who's to say Caleb Williams does anything? Like, their upcoming schedule, they take on, I'm not even joking, 8 consecutive games of playoff teams. Green Bay, Minnesota, Detroit, San Francisco, Minnesota, Detroit, Seattle, Green Bay. You'd assume they have to throw the entire time. They can't even do that. They can't even throw the fucking ball. I mean, at this point, I can't start him. So if someone wants to give you something for him, beautiful. We'll take it. Whatever it is. Running back, wide receiver, they're gonna give you some tight end depth. Beautiful. At this point, I mean, a lot of us don't have a chance to wait for him to finally find relevance. That's the issue. We're on a ticking time bomb. Many of us are still trying to make the playoffs actively. So unless he's going to wake up, we're screwed. So yeah, if you can get anything, go for it. Let's see here. Marky Mark in the chat says Stafford crapped his big boy pants at home. Yeah, he did. I lost by 2 starting him over Mahomes. Yeah, that's rough. Dude, I can see it in my brain. I was sitting on the couch and I literally say out loud, on this play, Kyren Williams needs to come out of the backfield, act like he's running out, then cut back in on that little half diamond route, just like he did the other week against the 49ers, in which he scored a touchdown and he jumped over a defender. They need to do the same thing. Matthew Stafford, completely blind as a bat. Screws the pooch. We're done. Easy clap. My bet's killed. Brian Colorado sends in a question. Brian says, my bipocalypse, love Geno, DK, Jacobs, Bowers is and still got an 8. Wow. Congratulations. You're on an 8-game winning streak even through bipocalypse. Is Devontae Smith rest of season trading him or Jacobs too much for Mooney? Yeah. I think if you trade Devontae Smith 1-for-1 for Mooney, I'd understand it. But Jacobs, you cannot give. Let's see here. We had a question from Cali Kid who says, is Dak out rest of season? So they haven't confirmed it yet, but it is at base minimum injured reserve. But the reports that we heard the other day is that he's going to require surgery. Now, he went and he got it tested again today by a different independent doctor to see what the overall necessity of a surgery is. If he has surgery, he's done. If he doesn't, and they say, listen, this is something that can heal, and maybe you can come back in 5 or 6 weeks, then there's a possibility of that. But as of right now, based on everything that I have seen, it is most likely a season-ending injury, especially considering if he comes back and they lose another 4 games here, what's their record? 3-10? Yeah, they're not going to be in a position to make the playoffs, so I don't think they'd bring him back or be rushed to do so. What were you saying? Is Dak out for the rest of the season? If so, should I go after Sun God in my league and trade away CeeDee Lamb? Yes, you should. If you can get Amon-Ra St. Brown for CeeDee Lamb, absolutely make that deal right now. Crispy Chris says, should I trade Dobbins for Bucky or White? Honestly, I would... Man, the Dobbins situation is tough because he should have scored a touchdown. He should have. Both Hassan Haskins and Justin Herbert coming away with touchdowns is not something that we're going to see consistently. Looking at the upcoming schedule, I do not like what I see. I would rather have Bucky Irving rest of the season. I'm not even joking. I think Bucky is a special player. He has looked great this season. And especially over the course of the last month, he's looked incredible. James P. says Ferguson or Kraft. I'd rather have Kraft. Thank you. Tim H. says, would you trade Kupp for JSN/Bowers? Wide receivers are Neighbors, Harrison, Higgins, and Smith. Laporta's my tight end. I would. Considering you're getting Bowers, which is desperately needed in your situation, I'd be willing to do it. Only in that instance because of your tight end situation. Told y'all don't start any of your Bears. You're not wrong, Donald. You're not wrong. James Peace. Okay, we took care of that. Kraft over Ferg. Yeah, that's correct, Flo. Pablo says, why would he come back? Yeah, Dak is, he's pretty much done. Awad says, traded away Jacobs and Devontae for Jamar, have Tyreek and Ridley, Achane and Mixon. Cool. Sounds good. Yeah, I mean, look, in the long term, you're going to have to hope that Jamar Chase really finds these like elevated performances. But yeah, we're just going to hope that your team balls out consistently. I think you gave away some depth for sure. And I mean, you're going to be missing Mixon in a couple weeks here because of a bye week. But that's it. Everybody else, except for him and Jamar Chase, those are the only people that will be facing an upcoming bye week. But let's hope for the best there. Green Screen Man says, drop Deontay Johnson for Njoku or Mark Andrews. Wow. Either of the two. If I was to tell you which of the two I prefer, let me see here really quickly. If we're setting it up for rest of season situation, personally, I'd rather have Njoku. Thank you. Okay, let's see here. Sean K says, getting to the point where Bucky is a better play than Hall. Yeah, you're right. That's an objective truth. It is at that point. You know why? Because so even though Breece Hall, look, don't get me wrong, I will give Bucky Irving his flowers. He is an incredible talent. He's played way beyond his means thus far this season in his rookie year. But Breece Hall is the better running back. We all know that. Okay? If you put Breece Hall on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the damage that he would do to the defenses, because of how well coached they are and how great of an offense they are, in comparison to what the Jets put on the field every week, I mean, I'd imagine that Breece Hall would be unstoppable in that backfield. Trade CD for Baker too much. I got Stroud and Cousins at quarterback. I don't think you need Baker that badly. I would rather go after another wide receiver. Tony Lopez says, rank these players rest of season: Mooney, Tillman, JSN, Ridley, and Jennings. That is an interesting one. I think I'm going to have to wait before I can objectively say where I have JSN, because the last time out, JSN scored 35 fantasy points, right? In the return of DK Metcalf, I don't expect that kind of level of opportunity and or target share. So as of the available players, it's probably Mooney number one because he's been the best. After him, it's very much so dependent on what we'll see out of JSN this week against the 49ers as to giving us an idea as to what his exposure to opportunity will proceed for the remainder of the season. Under the assumption he goes back to being the normal JSN, okay? It would be Mooney, Tillman, Ridley, JSN, and Jennings. That would be the order. Full PPR Estimate or Brooks? I'd rather have Brooks. I don't see Estimate getting any receiving upside going forward. Nick Chubb or Ramondre Stevenson rest of the season? I'd rather have Ramondre Stevenson. Even though how terrible the offense is as a whole, Nick Chubb, unless he scores touchdowns, again, he is very similar to Audric Estime in the idea where it's yardage and touchdowns. There is no receiving work. Rushing yards, rushing touchdowns. Anything else is out of the realm of possibility. Chicano Raider says, Andrew, should I trade Cade Otton and Myers for Montgomery and Mooney? I have Ferguson. I would. Yeah, if Montgomery and Mooney are going to immediately start for you, yes, I'd rather have that too. Catacombs Kid sends in a question, says, drop the Steelers for the Texans. Drop Braylon Allen for Estime. Yes, to both. Brian F says, what receivers trade for Amon-Ra? I have Tyreek Hill, Devontae, Pickens, Marvin Harrison, BTJ, and more. So you're going to be trading for Amon-Ra, correct? So you'd be giving away one of the wide receivers that you mentioned on this list. I'd assume in order to get Amon-Ra in return, you'd have to give away Pickens or Tyreek Hill. I don't think they're going to take a Devontae Adams or a Marvin Harrison. Now, potentially, you could give away a Devontae Adams plus a DJ Moore and they take it. I don't know. But if you're going to go for one-for-ones, it's Tyreek Hill straight up for Amon-Ra or Pickens straight up for Amon-Ra and hope for the best. Otherwise, you're going to have to give away 2-for-1s, which in this situation, maybe you just give BTJ and DJ Moore and just hope that they take it. Aaron Murdered Brees. Yeah, you're not wrong. Zach Wilson elevated him. You know, every single backup quarterback that played for the Jets last season knew the job. You know what the job was? Throw the ball to Brees. They got him the ball consistently. There's a reason why he was averaging like 6 receptions per game last year. Crazy number. But yeah, his fantasy value has been annihilated, unfortunately. CD isn't done. If he's playing in the opposite end zone this week, he would have made a touchdown. No, you're right. He would have scored a touchdown. I mean, shoot, if he can see, he would have scored. I'm not saying that he's a bad player. I'm just saying that in comparison to other quarterbacks other teams and other wide receiver groups that have actual solidified quarterback play, like I'd much rather have a Drake London. I know what his quarterback's going to get him in terms of opportunity. Cooper Rush, Trey Lance, I don't trust either of those two. That's the issue. I'd rather have a Deebo Samuel associated with a Purdy rather than a CeeDee Lamb associated with Cooper Rush. Now again, Cooper Rush and him have played well in the past, and once they go forward, if they have an advantageous matchup, which again, we talked about it earlier, from weeks 13 and on, it's pretty solid. But again, we have to rely upon him against Houston and against Washington in the next 2 games. And we need victories, and we need him to find the end zone. Otherwise, it's going to be rough. If the games get out of hand and it becomes blowouts, again, I mean, they'll just shut it down again. That's the issue. Do you think Marshawn Lattimore will cover A.J. Brown Thursday night, leaving Devontae Smith open for more opportunities? You know what the thing is? Even if he does, I don't think he'll throw the ball to Devontae Smith because I don't think they're going to throw the ball much. Unless Dallas Goedert is out, I wouldn't expect Devontae Smith to get more opportunity because otherwise they're just going to run the ball down Washington's throat because they can't stop the run. What do they give up? 115 rushing yards to the rushing attack of the Steelers. So I think they'll just get the ball jammed down their throat. Otherwise, in the event in which, of course, Marshawn Lattimore is covering A.J. Brown, I say yes, potentially. Devontae Adams could get more target opportunity. But, I mean, look, if you have Devontae Smith, if you have Devontae Smith, you're starting him. Like for me personally, in my main league in which I have Devontae Smith, I'm starting him this week. I have to. But, if I had a better option, if T. Higgins was healthy, I'd rather play T. Higgins, Like if there was better options available to me, I'd rather go after those. Like this upcoming week, I'm probably starting Cedric Tillman over Devontae Smith. I'd go as that far as of right now. Trade Smitty for Flowers, I would. Bryce Lane sends in a question. Says in a 12-team 2-flex full PPR and 4 and 6, my running backs are Pollard, Saquon, and Charbonnet, Pickens, Debo, and Cooper, and Puka, and Laporta, and then I trade Pollard and Debo for Kenneth Walker. Pollard and Debo for Kenneth Walker. Okay, here's my question. You can start 2 flex, but how many wide receivers can you start, Bryce? If you can start only 2 wide receivers and you have a start 6 between 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, 2 flex, every single week, it should be Pollard, Saquon, Pickens, Debo, Puka, and look, if I was in your position, I wouldn't make the trade. Yeah, I wouldn't. I'd leave it as is. Because again, you're playing in a start 6. With all the players that you mentioned, you're starting them all every week. You're starting Pollard, you're starting Saquon as your 2 starting running backs. Then Pickens, Debo are your 2 starting wide receivers, and Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua are your 2 starting flex. Unless you have like an insane volume of depth on your bench, which you didn't mention, I'm with the context that I currently have, I'm keeping what you have. I'm not trading for Kenneth Walker there. Let's see here. Steve says, hi, Andrew. In a full PPR, please. Any advice? Appreciated. Burrow. Okay, we keep Burrow. Look for a backup quarterback because his upcoming bye week is going to be tough. Gibbs, Achane, London, Neighbors, Ertz, Wilson, Butker, Boswell, Bigsby, Moser. Okay, so depends on your situation. I think BTJ needs to be traded here, Steve, for sure. And I also think you need to be looking for a better tight end because Zach Ertz is not going to cut it. Otherwise, Burrow's great. Gibbs is great. Achane's fine. He will be significantly better than what he produced tonight. Again, he has been way better all season long except for tonight's game. London, Neighbors, those are fine. I have no issue with keeping those. You have Garrett Wilson. Again, everything across the board except for Ertz is a problem. Once Evans comes back, he will fit in comfortably as your flex. So maybe you're looking to potentially move a BTJ or an Evans and try to go get one of those top tier tight ends. Maybe that could be the play. Otherwise, I don't think you need anything to be improved upon except for tight end. Himmy says, would you trade Neighbors for Jaden Daniels? I need a quarterback, play desperately, and I have London, Nico, Reed, and Higgins and Dell. So here's my only issue with that trade. Understand, so I would say yes, but contingency. The Washington Commanders, if I'm not mistaken, still have an upcoming bye week. So what happens in that instance? What are you playing in week 14 to try to make the playoffs? Because he's out that week. I'd rather trade for a quarterback who has already surpassed their bye, personally. But again, in the event in which this is the best position you're in and you cannot, because theoretically, unfortunately, nobody else is offering, then sure, you take the trade and you just try to prepare for a backup in week 14 in that week. Alan Gonzalez says, should I drop Waddle or just hold on to him? I would hold on to him. In comparison to what you have available to you, I'd just keep him for now. I'm dropping trade offers like bombs. Full PPR. I have Bowers and Kelsey. What wide receiver should I target? Thank you, Andrew. As of right now, I'm trading Bowers and I'm trying to go after. You'd have to go after some legitimate players, because if we look at what Bowers has done this season, in terms of his per game averages, 14.2 in a full PPR. So I better be reimbursed with at least a 14-point wide receiver in return. So if it's me, I'm trading for Mike Evans. I'm trading for Jada Reed. I'm trading for DK Metcalfs of the world. That's what I want in exchange. If anything, give me a Terry McLaurin gets the job done. A Zay Flowers, arguably, but I'd probably say no to that just as of right now. But yeah, Evans, DK, Debo, Terry McLaurin, those are the kind of wide receivers I'm going after. And I'm trading Bowers specifically, not trading Kelsey. Mikey says, who would be a better waiver pickup? I drop Mason for Gus, Benson, or Akers. Depends. As of right now, if you have Aaron Jones, you probably should be picking up Akers. If you have James Conner, you're probably picking up Benson. If you have J.K. Dobbins, you're probably picking up Gus. If you have none of those, but you have Christian McCaffrey, you're leaving Mason on the roster. If you don't even have any of those starting running backs or Christian McCaffrey, you're picking up Benson. When did Rams and Dolphins defense turn to 85 Bears and 2,000 Ravens? Yeah, I don't know if it's the matter of the defenses of how well they're playing. I just think it's how conservative the offenses are. Tyreek Hill typically is getting a couple deep shots every game, right? In terms of down the field, 20 plus yards. Tua just, he doesn't have the offensive line for it. Matthew Stafford doesn't have the offensive line either. They're just not pushing the ball down the field. And it's unfortunate. All right. So usually I like to have these streams about an hour, hour and a half, or an hour 21 in. I'm pretty much going to call it there. I appreciate y'all. Again, if you guys haven't checked out the waiver wire video for week 11, it's here posted. Tomorrow I will be back with a live stream at 7 p.m. PST. I'll also be posting my top 36 running back rankings for week 11. Again, there are still 4 teams on bye. So again, many of us are still dealing with a very tricky circumstance of trying to find running backs to play in the absence of, again, if you go look at the running backs that are on bye this week, Tracy, Rashad White, Bucky Irving. Who else is on bye week this week? I'm trying to remember off the top of my head. Why can't I recall? What has happened to me? Who else is on bye? Goodness gracious. Why? Hello? Brain power. NFL week 11. Nobody say it in the chat. Don't do it. Okay. James Conner. And then of course, Chuba Hubbard. Those 5 running backs all were in the top 10 in week 10 in terms of fantasy points scored. All of them scored 14 or more fantasy points. Okay? So we're losing a lot of running back talent this week. Now we get back, guys like Josh Jacobs, all that kind of jazz. But we're a lot of us are losing some actual consistency here, which is rough, but we'll see. All right, guys, that's where I'm going to call it. I appreciate y'all. I'll be back tomorrow. If you guys are a part of the Patreon and you send me a message, I'll try to answer that right now as soon as I close out the stream, and I'll go and I'll pull those up and send responses on Discord or via Patreon. I appreciate y'all. Again, that pretty much covers it. I'll be back tomorrow. Cue in the music. Have a great rest of your night. And until next time, I'll see you guys. Peace.